This is Morten from INKISH TV with yet another episode of Over the Skype. And this time, a couple of weeks ago, I actually got to know Mr. Tim Cox, who's my guest today. He's from the UK. And I look particularly much forward to this conversation because during the past weeks, just 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, I didn't know Tim at all. And I think he is doing a lot of things that are really interesting. So I look very much forward to this. So Tim, welcome to Over the Skype.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, but tell us a little bit, who are you and what do you do?
Okay, I'm Tim Cox. I'm from Vpress. I'm the managing director. I've been with Vpress now for about a decade, but my background, I would say, has always been print. I'm the son of a printer, so it's pretty much been in my blood from the days of hot metal and a lot of the older traditional stuff. I guess I kind of came into the industry after having some experience with my father and in all aspects of what goes on in the trade. But I ended up working for a supplies company, selling supplies to print rooms from a lot of the old things like screens and copyproof and PMT, that kind of stuff. A lot of repro work and plates and spotting out materials, things like that. So it was pretty old school. I did that for a while. I was promoted into a sales role, but I left and I had about 5 years in the golf industry. Won't go into details why, but I ended up for some reason coming back to print, and I came back postscript. So after Postscript had been launched, and I have to admit, at the time when I came back in, I had absolutely no idea what a rip was. I thought a rip was something that appeared in your jeans when you bent over. And what Postscript was and PDF, and I had no idea. So it was a very, very steep learning curve, and the role I came back in to do was to promote what at the time I hadn't realised had just arrived on the market, which were desktop drum scanners from a Danish company you probably know that was called ScanView. And that's now owned by, I think that's part of the ESCO organisation. But so my job really was it was an awful role really, because I was going into people that were using £1.5 million Helen screen scanners that have been trained for 5 or 6 years to tell you the CMYK value of a sunset, and I was coming with a piece of software and a bit of tin that did the same for about 20 grand. So I wasn't taking it all seriously.
I have to interrupt you for a second because that is one of the issues about especially native English speaking people and Americans as well, is that if you turn on the camera they just keep on talking, and I want to say something too, right? One of the things that came to mind when you were introducing yourself is that because Vpress is obviously a company producing a Coreprint, a web-to-print solution, and we're going to talk more about that in details a bit later. But so you would say that your background is actually maybe one of the, I wouldn't say few, but I'm teasing a little bit, but a few of the web-to-print solutions where the MD actually knows about repro and the processes of print.
I immerse myself in it. Whether I know about it is another matter. No, I think you'll find that the same can be said for everybody at the company. Everyone in the company, in the management sphere, and most of the people working within the realm there, except for some of the programmers, are all from a print background. So I guess there's empathy. There's also an ability to actually have an applied knowledge of what's going on, and it has really served us well. We have people in there that are ex-trainers on colour, scanning, image capture. We have people that understand workflow. So understanding why things are done in the print industry is very important. And I think this is one of the reasons why we've become kind of the kings of integration, because there's a degree of anticipation in everything we do when we're selling and when we're implementing and when we're guiding and advising customers that is really preemptive of what that job has to do to work in a very fluid framework within the print environment. But we're also, because we've come from an IT background, we're very empathetic of what's gone on upstream. So everything in the corporate or the brands world that may have involved the way that they come to administer and procure a product through, say, an SAP, Ariba, maybe an Oracle or a Salesforce or a Coupa platform. So it does allow us to be a bit more holistic. I think it also means that we can become a bit cynical as well.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things I'm a bit curious about, because as an MD and with the background that you just told me about, would you say that your daily job as an MD for a company like Vpress, is that more like the boring management and the money business and that HR thing, or are you still like kind of involved in where you take your software from a technical perspective?
Yeah, thankfully I don't have to get caught up in all that stuff.
Which part of
even
it?
Before I joined Vpress, the team are amazing, and it's very easy for me to sit here on a camera or being in a meeting and quite confidently state how great we are, or how good I am, or how great the software is. But every bit of my success historically from day one has been because of the people I surround myself with. And sometimes that is that they've had faith in me and pulled me in, and sometimes it's because I've seen opportunities in an individual and brought them in. But there's no way in the world that I can't do it all, but thankfully I don't have to get involved in every aspect. So
but my question was more like, if you are let's say a very small company, then it often starts from a point where you have developed something yourself, you've been a developer or something like that. And I was just wondering, in Vpress, is your role more like I would say in quotation traditional MD role, where you are more focusing on things because you have a good team, or do you still think that you have a role also saying that we should go in that direction software wise, or that direction market wise?
Yeah, I would say both. But in terms of the direction of the software, we run a management team. So there's the board in the company that obviously makes strategic decisions on the company, the money, investment, etc. But we have a monthly, we have a weekly management meeting, which basically covers all aspects of the business, and the team leaders from those aspects of the business report in. We preside over whatever needs to be decided upon, and we move from there, and part of that is direction. So even though we have a product manager who has a vast amount of experience in this trade, and we have a technical director who is one of the board members who I guess he runs all aspects of the technicality of the product, from integration to the way that we work with and support it. But ultimately it is a collaborative decision in terms of direction. So yeah, we have influence. If there's an opportunity to move in a particular direction, it's worthwhile, we get involved, but everybody in the team has a say. So it's never about the rule of Tim. About Tim might bring an idea, but if the idea doesn't have legs, it doesn't happen.
Okay. And what about? I think a lot of people, of course, during the COVID-19 have experienced a lot of business, not just in print, but also in almost every industry that is going online. So have you, despite the crisis, both seen new needs for your service product, but also in terms of new features?
Yes. I think probably the biggest change is the realization of just how important web-based transactions are to a print business. I think historically we've dealt with, and no offense, I mean, I always feel like I'm talking from a printer's point of view, coming from that background with my father, but I think a printer doesn't very often make a decision based upon a strategic view. That's being very general, but I think that most of the time it's reactionary. So it will come as a result of a threat of business loss, or it could come as a result of an opportunity to gain business. So a lot of the time people don't make a decision, and I think it's the same with everything else, that they won't necessarily, and I'm the same, I wouldn't necessarily buy something unless I needed it. But I think what you've got with printers is that this is not their comfort zone. Web-based transactions, everything that surrounds management of a web-based architecture, even the skill sets internally, don't always lend themselves to it. So I think historically we've always had a bit of a problem getting people, we call it sitting on the fence. It's probably the same in Denmark, but to get people to move from a keen interest to an actual commitment can be hard work. Since the lockdown, that's changed. It's almost like someone opened the floodgates and everybody's just coming through. So we've now got an enormous amount of people that are coming to us and saying, we need to do this. We know what we're doing. Or more importantly, most of the people who are coming to us saying, we know we need to do this, we just don't know how to do it. Can you help? And because we've got a very solid professional services team, and we've got a pretty unrivaled reputation in the market for being a very customer-focused business, so we're very holistic, very supportive in the way that we go about our clients' requirements, I guess they feel like they're in a safe pair of hands. So a lot of the time they come to us with their aspirations, and we will sometimes we'll give them a reality check. Not always quite, they might want to go B2C and suddenly become Vistaprint in the market, and you have to explain there's a little bit of cost involved in marketing to get there, which will just swamp the investment in technology. So yeah, there's a lot there, but in general, yes, we have seen that's the biggest change. People are now are running at it. I think the other thing is there's now a diversification going on. I think printers have historically been a very, very versatile bunch as a business. I think a lot of people think of printers as just someone who makes marks on paper. I think they forget the pure skill that goes into taking a job from a concept to conclusion and all of the things in the middle. And I think that a lot of agencies and brands and companies forget just how much onus they put on the printer to suddenly make, wine out of water. There's these phenomenal ideas. They don't really care how it's done. They just want it done. Yeah. So I think it's been the same since since COVID-19, in that we're now looking at people moving into all areas of PPE. And we're not just talking about posters and signage and floor stickers and window displays and sneeze guards and all of that type of thing. We're talking about printed masks, personalizations of masks, getting into garments and personalizations of garments. So that's all shifted massively. And I think that because signage is obviously direction in signage at the moment, even if it's just to say don't stand that close, is all important. And the most efficient way of doing it, despite the haters of the world saying that print's dead, print is still the most efficient way of doing it. We have the most diverse array of substrates. A printed bit of paper on the ground doesn't care whether it rains or if there's an electric plug near, it's just there.
Or
there's a lot of movement.
Right? Or sunstorm. yeah. Tim.
So I think there's this.
Sorry. Please. No, go on, please.
No, I think the diversification's there. I think the other area of diversification for printers now is that they're moving from their traditional client-to-client, business-to-business based activities, and they're now trying to maximize some of the technology that they have at their fingertips to actually web enable into a business-to-consumer market a lot of the traditional products that they might have actually kept on a B2B level. And that could be anything from personalizing a mug to a box. It could be anything. So, I think there is some change.
Yeah, if you look at I would say at least since the new year until now, and you look at the people that have approached you for working with your company, do you see like a pattern in what types of company that are reaching out to you? Or because I mean, one of the things that sometimes is a little bit disencouraging in the industry. Sometimes you see some printers, they're just waiting to die, right? Sitting down waiting. Okay, the flood is coming. We can see it, but we don't care. We can't do anything. And some are very reactive in a positive way doing things. And I was just wondering, is there any, in your opinion, like is it like patterns? Is it like the large companies, the small companies, the public companies, the private companies?
I think the larger companies. I think the larger companies have embraced. They may not have always been successful with web to print or brand management technologies, but they probably made the investment. I think a lot of the SMEs are the ones that are concerned. They've had nothing but doom and gloom messages for the last few years, perhaps since the last Drooper, whereby inkjet has suddenly hit them. There is no doubt inkjet is going to affect that. If it hasn't already started affecting the B2 market, it's now going to start affecting other markets of more traditional print. So I think that the SMEs are the people that are probably feeling most at threat. But I'm finding customers from all sorts. I'm seeing an emergence of agencies coming direct to us, asking for assistance, because they have a diverse range of clients.
So when you say that the agencies are and the brands are approaching you, is that because they basically want to have a more ownership of all the value creation from a web to print? I mean, I was just thinking that if I think one of the reasons why a printing company would like to have a web to print solution because they build a tighter connection to the brand owner and the print buyer.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I was thinking that when you mentioned the brands are investing in for example, Coreprint, is it because then they can be more diverse in the number of suppliers and not less dependent on whatever supplier system they will have?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of mixed reasons. I mean, we are. I mean, some of our peers and competitors have a different approach to this, and what we try not to do at any point is bite the hand that feeds us. Now, our marketplace has always historically been the printer and the print manager, and I guess over the last number of years, even the office products companies that have obviously seen a massive change in their market since Amazon decided to sell into that sector. So if we start dealing direct with corporates, we're not going to gain any friends. So most of our time is spent engaging corporates in conjunction with our clients who are the print and print.
I get it. Okay, I get it.
But we also have a lot of agencies that work very closely with printers that are very impartial to where the print is done, but they need to have more control now, because I think that because the prices are now starting to tighten, everybody's now looking at ways of actually expanding the profit, and the only way you can do that is through automation. There's only so many people you can throw out of your company before it becomes inefficient, but through automation, you can double your capabilities without really too much expense. So I think it's about control. I think that there's now been a realization among the brands, and I say brands, that could be education, government, it could be anyone in any vertical you like. But I think that the people in the marketing departments now that have historically made this someone else's problem are now looking to actually pull more control back in. So we do get engaged regularly, but a lot of the time we ask them who they're currently working with. So we've even had scenarios where a brand has directed the questions at us, and what we've ended up doing is working with the brand and their printers to help them secure a really, I guess, efficient environment for both the brand and the workflow.
That sounds interesting. I want to change direction a little bit of our conversation here, because I want to get back on similar track in a moment. But one of the things that have really put Vpress on social media agenda, at least which is not even product related, is your Crown Pop. And for the people who don't know what that is like every Tuesday and Thursday you invite people for a freely conversation in a kind of a pop kind of environment. And I participate 2 times, and both times I found subjects and interaction really, really interesting. How did that got along?
We've we've been doing this for 18 years, and we're.
You did that for 18 years?
No, we have been doing Vpress for 18 years, and with that has brought a massive network of partnerships with other vendors, with a wider range of clients, and a good relationship with the press and peers and competitors. And we've always done a lot of work through open networking, and we don't go into that kind of closed book, threatening kind of approach. We've always been a very open company. So when we all went into lockdown, we wanted to make sure that we stayed in touch with everybody. So we just thought what would be really good. There's so much serious work. Everybody's on a web conference, making phone calls, desperate for business. So we thought we'll just create something and run it once or twice a week. Now it was the brainchild of our marketing manager, who is Milo Furcho, and Kelvin Bell, who's the sales director. Hence the reason they are the landlords, I guess, if you like. Or maybe
they visit the real pubs the most. Who knows?
They're the ones that miss it. Exactly. It's all about alcohol. But no, we just felt we didn't want to do something for Vpress that was all about web to print, and because it's tiring. No one wants to hear all that anymore. So we thought let's just have an open area of discussion. Anyone can come in, and I mean anyone, friends, foe, competition, peers, it doesn't matter. And all we've done is early in the stages. I don't know how many we've done now, but it's twice a week at 3:30 on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and we pick a subject. And sometimes we'll pick a subject because it's of interest. It's a now question. Sometimes it's like throwing a hand grenade on a desk, and and you just watch what everybody does. So it's not us being deliberately controversial. It's just that sometimes there's a lot of conversations that need to be had in this industry, and no one wants to have them, either because it's a fearful subject or you can't get the people together to have that conversation. So yeah, we're happy to have other landlords and landladies. We've had Deborah Korn on a couple of times. Yeah, if someone's got a very, very serious subject they want to discuss, or yeah, it could be a fun subject, we just ask them to bring to the table. And what's crazy is it's really turned out to be a little bit of a barometer on our industry. You know, and it doesn't matter whether we're discussing inkjet or the success or demise of trade publications. It's just open. So I think that yeah, it's been really good, and everyone's welcome.
I was the reason I'm asking this is because, as I mentioned, I just participated 2 times, mainly because it's a British Standard Time. It doesn't really it collides sometimes with your obligations of your cooking obligations, right? So sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. But I was just wondering, because I truly understand what you want to obtain, and I also honestly totally agree that it's not about products, and especially not about Vpress. So I think that you have been on a very good balance when it comes to that part. But I was just wondering, have you and Milo and Kevin, have you been thinking about what marketing value it brings to Vpress anyway?
Yes. Yeah, we're very aware of what it's done, and it has been, at a time when everybody else seems to have ducked down in the trenches and just sat there and waited for the bullets to go, we seem to have been out fighting and doing stuff. I mean, we're busy. I mean, we've seen a change in our business. Our annuity income, which is what we charge against the usage of our system, it did take a nosedive. I mean, it started to rise again now. But our professional services, which is us doing projects for other customers, and our direct sales seem to have just, I don't know what's happened. It's just gone brilliant. So what seems to have happened is that the pub has obviously meant that we're very active on social media. We've had some competitors in there with us, which some people think is a bit weird, but to be honest, if we were all in a pub, Morten, we talk to everybody and everybody talks to everybody. I actually love the industry for that reason. It's pretty good like that. So yeah, I mean, in general, I think that the intellectual property that we're pulling from people's brains on the back of it, that's freely available to anyone who wants to just download the audio. If you want the video and you want to download an elephant of video from the proverbial web onto your desktop, go for it. But the audio's there, listen to it, pick out pieces. But for people like yourself with INKISH and the guys at the summit that couple of weeks ago, and some of the publishers that are looking for stories and comment, you've got comment from across the pond in the States. We've got people from the Middle East. We've had people from Russia on there, and then there's people like ourselves from Europe, albeit we're obviously no longer part of the EU because of our wonderful government's decision to exit. But
you're not part of Europe anymore, you bastards.
Well, I think we're always going to be part of Europe. I think it might be the EU we've left. Even though there are certain people in parts of the world that think that Europe and the EU are one thing, but there you go. Yeah. But yeah, it's been very good, and hopefully we can use a lot of the insight that's coming from it to offer information to people that are maybe looking for a little bit of, I guess, an unbiased opinion. It's sometimes good to look in on a discussion and see what is actually said, rather than read bits and pieces on the internet that have had a heavy bias.
I was also a little bit curious about this one, because when we did Learn with Us, and thank you for your support in that little session. I wrote an article afterwards. I think that people maybe misunderstood me a little bit, because I was actually satisfied with the audience we got. But if you look at it, both at the Crown Pop and Learn with Us and the Workflow Summit, and basically there's like 2 things that comes to mind. Is one thing, there's an information overload with webinars, so it kind of diminishes the value of it, regardless of high quality content. That is one thing. Another thing that I have also kind of difficulties of handling is that if you look at Europe, according to Intergraph, there's like more than 100,000 printing companies, and whatever company and whatever platform, even the Miyamaki that did for a month, or Koenig & Bauer that is now doing it every day for 11 days, we only reach a fraction of the companies and the decision makers and even the employees in those formats. What is wrong?
Do you know, this is something just like yourself, Morton. I really struggle to understand why the intellect that's out there and is available through sources like your INKISH and other places you said, why more people don't take it up. I find, certainly dealing with pretty much everybody, I guess, across the board, there just seems to be, everyone just seems to be busy being busy. And, you know, I've always overused the old fable about the axeman who stops to sharpen his axe, you know, against the other axeman who just literally plows into the trees without thinking. And I'm a firm believer that you do have to stop and sharpen your saw or sharpen your axe. And I just don't understand why more people don't take up the opportunity to sit, think, listen, learn, review. And the amount of people that you talk to about web to print and they go, I've got to get into web to print. You go, okay, great. What do you know about it? What do you want to do? What are you trying to achieve? Oh, I don't really know. You know, I just know I need to go into it. And I've seen the same when people have invested in the wide format sector. And you go, well, why have you done it? Well, you know, we do some canvas work. And you think, well, have you got any inspired thought behind it? Or are you just going with the others like lemmings? And I just wish that more people would literally spend time looking at it. So, you know, we've got a pub. We can take as many people in that pub as want to come into it. There are some seriously impressive brains in there that can be picked and ask questions. And yet very few people come in and ask those questions. LinkedIn is an amazing forum for most people to find out what they need to find out. But I don't know, Morton, I think there's a lot of apathy. I think there's a lot of fear. And I think that the print industry, like some other industries, are a bit flat earth thinking. I think that sometimes they feel that it's always been this way, therefore it will always remain that way. And I think that there's some fairly slow thinking out there that are just not understood that the world is not going back to the way it was. It will never go back. And we've just now had another tectonic kick in what's gone on now with the lockdown and the way that we now interact as human beings. And, you know, so I think that everybody talks about survival of the fittest and all of this aggressive bullshit, which it really is. What it really is the survival of the most adaptable. You know, anyone that can adapt and can have a degree of foresight or have some resilience and allow themselves some time to actually fight against what's pushing against them, I think that they're the people that are going to succeed. And I think that I've seen a lot of non-print based businesses kick up in the print industry who've got a very diverse view on the way that they go about work. And they've been winning business hand over fist. You know, young entrepreneurial thinkers who just see print as part of their business rather than it is the business. So it's a difficult one because I'd love it to change. I like
the way you say it and put it in things, but it also, in my opinion, maybe puts things in another perspective, because if the industry players from the small mom and dad shop to the large corporates don't really participate in the conversation, how can we even be sure that we develop products and services from a vendor level to the industry that actually hits the need in the market? Because if we, let's say that if you look at Drupa with 250,000 people coming there, that's still like only a fraction of the world's decision makers, right? I mean, that is like, so every time we do something that is like really huge, we talk about, you know, when we spoke about the trade media yesterday, I couldn't help looking up a few of the trade media, saying that if you have a circulation on a printed trade media and let's say 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 copies, I mean, that's nothing, right? If you look at websites claiming to have hundreds of thousands of views, the value of the conversions and the value of revenue and the revenue of engagement with both Vpress, but just the fact that Vpress is doing something that is like a non-profit project, like the Crown Pop. I mean, I think there's something missing in that equation that I'm worried about it, to be honest.
I think there's an apathy. I mean, one of the reasons why no one really gets much from Drupa is because most of them are getting over a hangover the next morning, so they only ever work to half a day.
Imagine 11 days. Imagine 11 days of hangover. That is like the last days is like, was I there or? Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. do we really need to imagine it, or is that just based on memory, or what memory you have?
I don't have any memory, so it's
we won't get into that.
It must be based on some footage from some secret cameras.
Yeah, we read it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that the word apathy probably could be used. And as I said, I think that there's too many people out there that are too busy being busy. They're still trading in the same way with the same people and the same products. And I think that they trade within their own portfolio of manufacture, I guess, I've seen a slow move of printers that have now really analysed what they can do really, really well, what they're known for, or more importantly, what they're efficient at, they can make profit on. And what they've done is they've looked at the other products that probably aren't their sweet spot, and they've taken those products out and they found a trade vendor that can fulfill that part of their business. Now, historically, that would have been quite a difficult game to have played with proofing and manual and interaction phone calls and the like. But with web to print, we can now fulfill a complete print requirement for anyone, any brand out there. I mean, we've got 4,500 brands globally using our product. Well, it's in excess of that. And they're global. They're in every language in every country, and they're procuring everything you could imagine, from print that I've never heard of to standard stuff like brochures and business cards. Now, if you're not great at brochures and you've got maybe an old press that can't compete on quality, why are you going to keep doing it? Why don't you take that out, give it to a company that is really, really good, they specialised in it, negotiate the right price, put all of this product available online within a web-to-print system, allow your clients to access it whenever they want, in whatever quantity they want, in however much personalisation they want, proof it off online, pay for it, or order via a normal term of invoice, and then that job gets fulfilled maybe under white label by a printer who's not even in the same region as you or the country, or not even in the same country as you, and it gets shipped on behalf. So I think that a lot of printers have woken up to the fact that they are, and they always have been, print managers. And I think because of that, the clever ones are now looking at their businesses differently, and they're taking out the cost. The heavy manual processes are being automated. The aged machines that don't really have a massive future or return on investment set against the new investment, they're going, and they're now taking this work and they're now taking it and putting it out. But I've also seen printers now bring work in to the portfolio that has nothing to do with print. It's fulfillment. Yeah. So they're now fulfilling a complete marketing function for their customers. And that could be merchandising, it could be office products, it could be display screens, it might be apparel, clothing, it could be anything. But the beauty is now through a web to print system, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it comes from or where it's going.
And I think that this will be maybe your second last word, because this was like a good closing of how you can support your customers and the industry by, I guess that Coreprint is capable of outsourcing print on behalf of your customers, so they can off balance when they need to. So Tim Cox, it was a pleasure to talk to you again. And we have never met in person, but I hope that sooner or later that will happen. It's been great. Thank you. Thank you for your effort and your support of us, so your support of the Crown Pop. I can't promise that I will participate every time, but I can promise that I will participate from time to time, because I think it's a really great venture you have going there. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks very much, Morten. Thank you, everyone.